Hello again, Babench here. Today's video isn't going to be a typical benchmark or comparison. Instead, I'll be building a PC using a mix of new and used parts, all within a budget of 420 euros, with price based on Lithuanian market. Let's get in. The heart of our system is the i3-12100F, a 2022 budget CPU with 4 cores and 8 threads, running at 4.1 GHz across all cores, and featuring 12 MB of L3 cache. It competes closely with the Ryzen 5 5500, with the i3 outperforming in some scenarios and the Ryzen in others. However, in terms of price, the i3 is clear winner. As for the cost, here is a twist. It costs me nothing, no crime involved. I simply got this CPU from my brother after he upgraded his PC to i5. I researched the market price for a used i3, which averages around 60 euros. But for my build, I will listing is at 50. The motherboard is Asus Prime H610MK DDR4. Isn't the cheapest motherboard on the market, but it offers a solid 8-phase VRM that's capable of handling even the i5-12400F. With 6 USB ports, it's more than sufficient for the average PC user. It includes 2 RAM slots and an M2 SSD slot, but it lacks an ARGB header, which may require some minor additional spending. Spoiler, I'm going to use a cooler with ARGB fan, so I ordered a Jonesbo ARGB controller from AliExpress, which cost me 9 euros. Overall, it's not a standout motherboard, but it reliably performs its essential functions, and that's all I need. I bought it new for 69 euros. The processor will be cooled by Dark Flash Z4, featuring 4 heat pipes and 120mm fan. This cooler is actually overkill for this CPU, but it's definitely quieter and looks far better than the stock cooler. I'll show temperatures results later, but only for 14 euros it's really surprising. Both RAM slots will be occupied by 2 8GB Team Group modules at 3200 MHz. RAM has no heatsinks and looks like a basic memory models from the 2000s. Once again, I'm using donated components here, but based on my research, similar RAM currently goes around 20 euros on the market. For the SSD, I chose Kingston NV2. From the start, I knew that SSD need to be a minimum capacity of 1 TB. While it's not the fastest SSD on the market, it offers a solid quality at a good price. I spent 58 euros for a new one. At first, I considered buying a GTX 1660 Super, but then I thought, why not just use my main RTX 2060? I've been wanting to upgrade from this card for a while away, so meet the Gigabyte RTX 2060. It's built on a 12nm TSMC process and features 1920 CUDA cores, with 6GB of VRAM on 192-bit memory bus. It's not the best model on the market, as most of these Gigabyte 2060 tend to suffer from high temperatures. The main issue here is poor contact with the heatsink. The heat pipes aren't as smooth as the rest of the heatsink, which affects cooling efficiency. However, undervolting the card helps manage the temperature. What about the price? Let it be 120 euros, as it really has some cooling issues. I wanted to avoid the risk of buying a used PSU, so I decided to go for a new one. I brought a 600 watts Silence Redwing, which turned out to be the cheapest option at the only 32 euros. Personally, I trust Silence, as I've been using a 500 watt Silence in my main PC over 7 years. Knowing that Silence offers a solid low budget option, I went ahead with the purchase. However, the PSU had a noticeable coil whine. I decided to return it to the store and had an interesting conversation with a store employee. He mentioned that all store units of this 600-watt silence PSU have coil whine issues. Since then, the 600-watt silence has gone from the sale. I paid a little more and purchased a 600 watts Chief Tech Smart Series, which is a higher quality unit compared to silence. It offers a better efficiency and features two 6+2 pin PCIe connectors instead just one, making it more suitable budget option. It cost me 44 euros. The final component is where all parts come together: the case. I chose the Gambert Fornax 1500 RGB, which comes with 4 pre-installed RGB fans, dust filters and plenty of space for cable management. While the case feels a bit cheap in some aspects, the metal is thin and side panel is made of acrylic glass, making it easy to scratch. But it still looks great overall and offers a decent airflow. I bought it for 48 euros. So I think that's all about specs. Let's make final build. The PC looks and feels great. This is my first time building a PC for resale, and I lied. I have stretched my budget a bit. The total budget for this build is actually 432 euros, but it easily can fit within a 420 euros, or even lower. After undervolting the GPU, I found the ideal stable settings. Power consumption dropped from 170 watts to 130 watts. Though this can vary depend on the game. Let's start with some intensive game. Cyberpunk 2077, max settings, medium crowd density and DLSS quality. In most locations, FPS stays around 60-70, with slight CPU bottleneck, which is expected since Cyberpunk is highly CPU intensive. Despite the bottleneck, there are no stutters or freezes. Forza Horizon 5 Ultra settings with TAA delivers a perfectly smooth experience, around 80 FPS. Once again, Forza impressed with its optimization. Black Myth Wukong high settings with DLSS quality. Despite concerns about the poorly optimized UE5 games, Wukong runs at solid 50-60 FPS, with minor drops to 40. There are some minor stutters due to VRAM limitation, as 6 GB of VRAM is really not enough for high texture settings. CS2 high settings. This build truly shines for the cybersports games. In 5v5 mode, FPS fluctuates between 140 and 200, depending on the intensity of in-game action. There is noticeable CPU bottleneck, partly due to use of my budget RAM and also because CS2 isn't ideal optimized. GTA 5 on max settings with 4x MSAA. Still the latest GTA title. The game runs well, delivering 90 to 100 plus FPS, and I'm confident that GTA Online will perform well too. Finally, let's check BeamNG Drive on Ultra settings. Without traffic, I get solid 70-80 FPS. Adding 4 traffic cars drops the FPS to 50, hitting a CPU bottleneck, since traffic is quite demand on the processor. and just for fun I tried to spawning a total of 11 vehicles. Interestingly, performance at this point was similar to an i5-7400 handling only 3 traffic cars. I hope you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Well, I'm gonna run some more stress tests on this PC, as I plan to sell it. And see you in the next videos.